What's up, folks? Welcome back to the stream. It's Monday. We're talking about this weekend's Warhammer, and holy shit, there is a lot of it. But what we're going to be focusing on today are events that use the new points. So obviously everyone's excited about the new updates. Not every event used them, although as I think I can show you, there were a lot of events this weekend. This weekend was insane. Not too many like major, super major level things, but in terms of the volume of GT and GT Plus level events that got played, oh my god, there was so many. It was an insane weekend to go through. Only a handful of the larger events used the new points. And interestingly, I saw a lot of smaller events, RTTs, and those level of stuff that actually did not use the new update. Which is always surprising to me, because RTTs is like the perfect testing ground for that new stuff. But what we're going to be doing today, I've taken down all the events that I could find that use the new points. I found some larger RTT level events that also use the new points. We're going to be jumping through some undefeated lists, some X and 1 lists, and talking about what's good. And let me tell you, if you are a vanilla Space Marines player, oh my god, specifically Ultramarines. Ultramarines are fucking everywhere now. They're crawling out of the woodwork. All those Blood Angels players painting their armor red and becoming an Ultramarines player, they're everywhere. So that's going to be exciting to talk about too. All you hear is sister players crying. Well, oh well. It is a little unfortunate because I do think the sisters probably got hit extra hard. They were in a really interesting spot. It seemed like they actually fell off actually winning events. Like people started to tech against them specifically because they were so strong. And they actually didn't do very well when it came to winning events. But if you weren't teched against them, you literally just lost immediately. So it's like a really, I don't know, it's a really toxic play environment. The unfortunate part for sisters though is that I think what they needed was a rework of some of their units. My cat is about to be just walk in front of the camera over and over. You are so annoying sometimes. Here, sit here and be good, okay? They needed kind of a rework of a lot of their mechanics, and we're not going to get that for a couple months at least. So I guess they just had to point things to an extravagant level, which is just it's too bad. It's too bad that they had to go that way, but it is what it is. Did not use the update at a local doubles tournament. TO said that they would never use updates the same week with a degree of disdain. All right, man. Like, I think GT plus, like, large events, there's a level of preparation that players need to do to go in there. But as soon as, if you're, like, playing in a more casual format or whatever, just do it, dude. Like, you're not helping anyone by holding off the update. Especially because it was a Wednesday update. Sometimes they drop stuff on like Friday, and you're like, do we use this update 12 hours before the event goes live? I don't know. But a Wednesday update is like, at least you got 3 days. If you have to paint a new unit or whatever, like you can figure it out. But those, like, you know, the big events where there are oftentimes painting requirements and stuff like that, that one I totally understand. But smaller events, like just the goal of those events is for people to you know, play and get more tabletop experience. And if you're not using the most current update, like, why are people even going? It is what it is. New guard is bonkers. Yeah, Militarum looking good, but Militarum, basically all of Militarum's results today.
Question about the £1,000 Space Wolf in the room. Do you think SW players are going to stop running 3 bricks of Thunderwolf Cavern Pivot to 2?
I do probably think that, yeah. That list going, well, that list went up 120 points. Two is probably better. I guess it went up, it was 10 points per TWC, right? So I guess it went up 180. Yeah, so two is probably better than 3, but I think you could still run 3 if you cut. There was always like an extra layer in there that was, I think, kind of the killer. If all you had to do was kill Thunderwolf Cavalry, that would probably be okay, because I think you could do that. Like, most armies can do that pretty reliably. But the problem was that you had to kill all the Thunderwolf Cavalry and then 18, like, Wolfen behind it or something. Like 20, 30 Wolfen or something like that. And that's where things became really problematic. Jesus Christ, cat. She almost just knocked a cup of water. What the hell? I'm watching her like slowly push it off the table. She's been a real pill today. I don't know what's up. I don't know what's up with my cat. Thunderwolf Cups still too cheap. 40 points a model? I mean, compared to a lot of other 40-point stuff, they're definitely better. But that's because I think a lot of heavy infantry in the game is really bad. It is what it is. Question about Black Templars. I don't have grand expectations for Black Templars. At least the sort of standard variety of the horror Black Templars. I think that there are builds that you can play that run elite Black Templar stuff, that run Sword Brother and things like that I think are just fine. But the army is running hundreds of guys going up like 200-300 points. It's just like out of nowhere and kind of crazy. So I don't know if we're going to see that many of those going around. Sisters got smacked like Thousand Sons did when the nearly needed rules changes. Yeah, I mean that's the downside of the sort of biannual rules changes is like they're just committed to not doing any rules updates. So they just have to fix things with points. Like I said, I think in my wishlist video, my hope was that they took a lot of these factions and they internally rebalanced them rather than just nerfing them. And unfortunately, they didn't. They elected not to do that. I think if you open up new avenues of play rather than just nerf the stuff that's really good, it's much more interesting and it keeps the faction relevant. But I hope that Sisters aren't just like dead in the water. But their list going up like what 200 something points is a lot because a lot of times they were struggling at the very top tier. But I don't know. Speaking as a non-Sisters player, I was getting a little tired of Breeze of the Flame. It was kind of brutal. All right, chat. Well, should we dive into some lists today? A handful of codexes have great internal balance. So here's the thing with Tau. You brought up Tau. Ultramarines and Anvil Siege Force. Ultramarines are great. Anvil Siege Force, maybe not so much. I don't know. But here's the thing with Tau. I'm a little concerned about this Kroot points decrease. Because I think I live streamed it a couple times, and it saw some competitive success, and it actually had a really good win rate for the players who played it. But Kroot Hunting Pack was unironically competitive, and it just wasn't seeing play that much because it's kind of annoying to play. I think a lot of people don't like to play horde armies, and especially Tau players. Like I don't know if you get into Tau to not play big stompy robots and instead to play like a bunch of like tribal warriors. And I think that detachment's really good now. Like really, really good. Just giving it like 200 free points was like, okay, all right then, cool. That's a lot. Yeah, 120 plus the character reduction, so probably at least 130 points. And I think if you aren't prepared to sweep infantry these days, it's going to be a rough time for you. So yeah, you have to be ready to just kill infinite numbers of models. Between them and Genestealer Cult. Genestealer Cult's the other one I'm really worried about because they were already kind of like becoming solved, and I think that it was an interesting choice to buff them as hard as they did. We'll see how the things go. At least GSE and like horde stuff is answerable, so it's not like it's going to be an insurmountable challenge to overcome. But I do think those attachments are going to be really strong. Is Guard beating everyone up yet? So Guard, actually, I don't believe so. We can double check in the results that I have, but I believe that every Militarum result from this weekend was using old points. Every single Militarum army had 30-point Bulgrin in it. So we'll see. We'll see how Militarum do. It felt like definitely a side grade because Bulgrin were such a huge thing for them. But I think there might be a hobby lag on Tempestus Aquilons, which are definitely huge for Militarum for sure. Raptors feel good. Oh, with the new the cost reduction on the big units. I love that change, by the way. Those units that are like bespoke, almost purpose-built utility units getting cheaper if you take a big unit. That's so glorious, and I wish they did that to more units. Because there are some units where you want to take the big bricks in order to buff them, but some units you just never, like, you have a larger like unit size, but there's no circumstance in which you take it. They're like the new Vespid are a good example of that, right? It's like this very specifically purpose-built unit for doing actions and completing secondaries. Like a little fast 5-man, like kind of like low damage output, like utility squad with an uppy downy. And they're like, hey, you can take 10 of them now, and you get heavy weapons. Everyone's like, no one's going to take that. Who in their right mind would put that in their army? But if you made the last 5 significantly cheaper, then I think, theoretically, there is more of an incentive to. All right, I think we're going to talk about some of the larger events. So I do want to give a shout out to my streamer boys. The biggest new points event of the week was Denver 40k Fight Club, and they are, they were streamed by Wargames Live. So if you want to watch the games from this one, you can go check them out on Wargames Live. I haven't looked at the stream pods yet, so if somebody has insight into how those games went, you can go check them out over there. But a huge shout out to Joe for streaming that one. We also, the next biggest one, Toronto Fall Open, also used the new points. That one was streamed by Tabletop Live. So we had lots of new points live stream coverage, and it seems like people were really into it, and there was a lot of viewership on those streams, which is awesome to see. By the way, chat, I'm going to be streaming this weekend. I don't want to forget to tell everyone, I'm going to be streaming the Battle Against Breast Cancer GT down in Virginia. So I'm going to be heading out Thursday to go get in on that event, which is gonna be good. I'm excited. So yeah, let's dive in. We got some Tyranid results. We got some Space Marines. There is a Ultramarine Vanguard Spearhead that's been going around. A little bit of Astra Militarum. We're just talking about Astra Militarum doing well. Some GCR cult back there too. Chaos Space Marines actually survived pretty well. I know a lot of people were saying, oh, they were dead. Chaos Space Marines will never win, but Chaos Space Marines actually did fairly good.
As a guard player who just tried out the new update, Aquilons are amazing, tank commanders having squadron is massive. The Bulgrin loss is minor.
Colin Walker, thank you for the super chat. Yeah, Aquilons seem totally transformative for sure. I don't disagree. And the tank commander upgrade is huge to you. I do think, I don't know. We'll see how the Bulgrin change ends up, and it might be that Aquilons can just like take their spot, where you get this like annoying 3-inch rapid ingress target, but I do think that I don't know, it will be a loss to, or at least a hardship to include Bulgrin. They were a unique unit in Militarum, and I think they keep being overplayed because they're the only unit that fulfills that role in the whole faction, and so then they get nerfed as a result. But yeah, their cost right now is exorbitant. All right, let's dive into some Space Marines. So essentially, what is old is new again. The old John Lennon list, the Vanguard Spearhead, rocking Marnius Calgar and the Blade-Driven Deep Apothecary Biologus. It's back, baby! And now we have some additional utility to bring with it. Uriel Ventress, huge buff. So that dude just exists in that list now. He was already there to give your infantry units deep strike, and now he also gives you a Lord of Deceit aura, plus you can take Shadow War Veteran for a second Lord of Deceit aura, and some versions of this list also take a Calidus Assassin, not this one, but you can get 3 Lord of Deceit auras. They did clarify that they don't stack their auras, but it's crazy. It's an insane amount of CP control. And then not only that, but you also have Marnius Calgar, so you are getting more CP yourself. It's just good stuff. So we have the Apothecary Biologus, Blade-Driven Deep, so that the unit infiltrates, plus Marnius Calgar, so he jumps in there. Cato Sicarius is in this list. So for those who don't know, Cato Sicarius, I guess we could pull up his data sheet just in case. Cato Sicarius is, he's wild. He's a wild dude. He gives his unit Assault and 6-inch Scout and an Auto 6 reactive move. So it's not a D6 thing. It's basically just like a locked in squad tactics, like while you're in tactical doctrine. So alongside the anti-charge stratagem that Vanguard Spearhead can bring, you actually get like a ton of reactivity. Yeah, so once you return after an enemy unit ends a normal advance or fall back move within 9 inches. It is weird. It is of the Sicarius model, but then his whole unit gets to move. So there is like a little bit of counterplay, but you probably just lead from the front with Sicarius anyway. And then he himself, he's got 6-2 damage attached with lethal hits. He's not that bad as a melee combatant as well. I think that he is jumping into company heroes here. I believe is what we're doing with that. That would make sense to me. Plus, we have a company hero squad for Uriel Venture stop into as well. We have an Impulsor. So the other benefit is that, obviously, if you're giving your unit 6-inch scout and then they embark on a transport, the transport will also get scout. So if you put yourself into a Tacticus unit and they jump into the Impulsor, then they're going to be scouting that. They can move up and perform actions, and if enemies try to come kill them, then they just run back into the transport, because there's no there's no disembark clause in the reactive move there. So you can, after the move, if everyone's within 3 inches of the Impulsor, you just hop back in. And then if they kill it, you hop back out on the other side behind terrain, and you're, again, hard to kill. And even then, if they're going to charge you, you can reactive counter move back, whatever the D6 move against a charge stratagem is. So, like, that unit is impossible to deal with. I'm kind of excited that it's seeing play, because I talked about it ages ago, and I never actually played it because it's like a little expensive, but it makes total sense in Vanguard Spearhead because you just have so much reactivity. A Devastator Centurion squad, so that gets pointed at by Uriel Ventress to get Deep Strike, and then you can use the Uppy Downy strat to put them into Strategic Reserve, and they can just hop out of Deep Strike anywhere on the table, and they get lines basically anywhere. It's almost impossible to screen 48 inches away from all your big shooters. In every direction. Unless you are just behind a wall on your like deployment line, or like on your side of the table, and you have your side of the table screened out, the Devastator Centurions will get a shot on you. They're super tough to combat. Double company heroes squads for the 2 captains. A big Eradicator squad. I think that one is for Blade Driven Deep. Sometimes it's aggressors, but we're doing Eradicators today. So they're gonna infiltrate up the center of the table. They can advance and shoot thanks to Marnia's Calgar, and they get lethal hits with full rerolls. All good stuff. Inceptors are another outlet for the Uppy Downy. They have Deep Strike baked in, and their 3-inch Deep Strike reactivates every time they arrive from Deep Strike. So you have a big unit that you can start on the table. Your stuff's kind of hard to kill because outside 12 inches it gets stealth and cover, so you're not going to lose too many sort of just running around the table. And then anytime you need to, if you're not dumping in the Devastator Centurions, you can pop the Inceptors and drop them 3 inches away from enemies. So even on turn 1, you can really alpha people by infiltrating the big Devastator squad, or the Eradicator squad, I should say. Advancing them up the table, blowing something up, and then also 3-inch dropping an Inceptor squad on them on the bottom of the first battle round, and it is disastrous if you don't have counterplay. Infiltrator squad, double scouts for utility as well. So this list is definitely an evolution of the ancient Vanguard Spearhead from basically this time last year. Which basically fell out of favor as Blood Angels became more popular. I think people just moved over to Sons of Sanguinius. All the Marine players jumped over to the next sub-faction. But it's back, baby! But we also have a couple other versions of Ultramarines that use Roboot Guilliman too. But Ultramarines, definitely probably one of the biggest glow-ups in the new update. They did lose some stuff because they have a tougher time accessing their utility in some cases. Things like Jump Pack Assault Intercessors were a loss for them because they are a little expensive now for just a 5-man utility unit, but thank God, because they were way too ubiquitous. But obviously they still have these like old staples to fall back on. It is I, Kato Zacharias. Double company heroes, pretty cool. Yeah, I love company heroes, dude. One of my favorite units. Tyranids also with some success. Matt Evans with a Synaptic Nexus over here. Not very many changes to Tyranid, so I don't know if this is like too many new things we're going to talk about, but this does look like a spicy list. We have Death Leaper and a Dirge Heart of Karis, Parasite of Mortrax. This is an expensive piece, but it gives you a second minus leadership aura, so you can stack up to -2 leadership, potentially up to -3 or 4 if you are in total between leadership and Battleshock penalties Shadow for the Shadow in the Warp. But also just forcing -2 leadership checks on Neurolictors is huge. Might also see some Screamer Killers in this list. That's a pretty common combination with Screamer Killers as well, because the Screamer Killers also bake in a -1 leadership or a -1 Battleshock effect on their own gun. And if you can stack that with a -2 or a -3, the chances your opponent succeeds the Battleshock check is really low. And that will turn on Neurolictor auras as well. The downside is that, this is kind of the issue with Tyranids, their combat units are cheap, but these utility units, these force multipliers, are extremely expensive. Like, we're talking about 175 points for just these two models, these two characters anyway. And the Parasite of Mortrax is not particularly combat effective. This guy doesn't do that much damage by himself. We have a Synaptic Control Hive Tyrant plus the Swarm Lord. Triple Exocrines of the Biovore, double Norn Emissaries, Zoanthrope. So no Neurolictor at all. Fair enough. We're just taking him for the 1/1 leadership thing. That's interesting, I guess. The other thing, the other sort of potential wombo combo there is that the Neurothrope can inflict additional mortal wounds when you fail Battleshock checks. So if you can get the Zoanthropes up into the fight, which to be fair is a little bit tough, although they can advance and shoot with the Hive Tyrant nearby, you can potentially be forcing like Death Leaper below starting strength checks, the Shadow in the Warp checks, the regular Battleshock checks, and the Neurothrope can start pinging for mortals over and over. That's it. Plus you have Smothering Shadow for the grenade in response to a failed Battleshock as well. So you can actually like dumpster somebody with mortals if you really need to. Interesting list. That's actually super fascinating. It's just Exocrines and Norn Emissaries. There's no Maleceptors. I was kind of expecting Tyrant Guard for the big Hive Tyrants, but I do think the Tyrants do benefit from the Norn Emissaries because the Emissaries demand so much of an answer, and they're so difficult to kill, right? So you can run up with your little Hive Tyrant, and your opponent's like, well, I could shoot that utility piece, or I could shoot the OC-15 monster that's currently destroying me on primary. And they can probably kill the Emissary, but can they kill the Emissary and the Tyrant? Probably not. And then you can like +1 to charge the Hive Tyrant, and he gets in there and punches people. Seems pretty good. As a Black Templars player, only Codex Marines should be allowed to play the detachments. Change supplements to be their own codexes. I think that's a controversial take. But I think what a lot of folks have asked for is for chapter-specific units to only be played in vanilla or in bespoke chapter detachments. Although to be fair, Righteous Crusaders is a very strong detachment. Like I think your tune would change if you're a Dark Angels main, because Dark Angels have like Jack Squat for detachments. They're not bad. I don't want to say Inner Circle Task Force is bad, but like nobody's playing Unforgiven. Like nobody's really excited about that. Speaking of Dark Angels, we can jump into that. But if you're like a Black Templar or a Blood Angels player, you're like, oh, yeah, I won't play Galadius Task Force. I swear. It's just it's a fine line to tread. It's kind of it's an impossible question with Space Marines. It always comes up. It comes up every year. This is also, I just want to call out the background art, like the splash art for Denver Fight Club is horrible. I hate this. What is this? What is this man? He has a toe on his backpack. This is AI generated? It looks AI. Almost certainly AI. Yucky. All right. Speaking of Dark Angels, we do have a Dark Angels Gladius Task Force. This looks like a classic, actually. An Honor Vehement Captain. So we're probably seeing some Assault Intercessors for him to jump into. Azrael, Double Judiciar. Whoa! Hold up. This list is spice. Double Judiciar, Phobos Librarian, Double Combi Lieutenant. What is happening? Plus Lionel Johnson. Okay, so we do have a lot of lone operative effects to turn on Lionel Johnson's Dark Angel Bodyguard. So he can get lone operative when he's within 3 inches of a character, of an infantry, and the infantry has lone operative. So you staple the two together, and they just live there. Plus, once your opponent comes up to try to fight this dude, he just runs away. So you can be like, Lionel Johnson, you could do it yourself. I believe in you, buddy. Double assault intercessor squads for the Judiciaries, I guess. An infiltrator squad, or maybe the inner circle companions of the Judiciary teams. At least one of them gets Azrael for sure, right? An infiltrator squad for the Phobos Librarian. That might actually be a really, really popular inclusion in modern times, because I think we are going to see a ton of deep striking. And I think we already have, but like if this Vanguard Spearhead continues to see play, if Genestealer Cult see a lot more play, then being able to defend against deep strikes, just concretely answer deep strikes like style armies is going to be a big deal. Although I think we say that every time, and this might actually be besides those two exceptions, there are very many other factions that I think are moving away. It doesn't seem like demons are particularly strong in this meta, and I think a lot of Necrons are moving to Obeisance Phalanx because of its buffs. We'll see if that sticks around, but I'd be interested. This list has 3 whirlwinds in it. All right. What's happening here? Okay, so we have a Phobos Infiltrator Squad, or a Phobos Librarian Infiltrator Squad that can protect the whirlwinds, so you can't deep strike on them. And then the rest of the list is just the ground-pounding melee dudes with Lionel Johnson. Just makes a big brick of, like, idiots running around the table with the lion. This list is incredibly spice. Yeah. They had 3 whirlwinds, chat. There are 3 of them. It's been a while. I was just commenting yesterday. I was playing a game on Twitch, and I was commenting. I was like, it's so funny because at the start of the edition, I think I made this statement in my like how to play Space Marines video. I was like, well, one of the core building blocks of the Space Marine Codex is a whirlwind. Like you can buff whirlwinds a bunch of different ways. They're very cheap, and you could do a bunch of things with them and like get use out of them. And then force your opponent to come into a straight fight with you, and then you turn on all your direct fire combos like Fire Discipline and stuff. And then they nerfed whirlwinds like 7 times. They're like, no, die, just die. Plus Desolation Marines got nerfed. Literally all the artillery in the faction got nerfed. It's insane that we're still playing 3 whirlwinds today in 2024. That's absolutely nuts. Who is this player? Who's this absolute Chad? Colin K. Of course. That tracks. Damn Legion, what's up, dude? How 1,000 Suns doing? I haven't seen too many 1,000 Suns. I think people might be dropping them like they're hot. 1,000 Suns are they're in a weird spot right now because the faction's so difficult to play that not a lot of people want to take the time and effort to be successful with them if they're not really strong, right? If the payoff's not really good. And I have a sneaking suspicion that the nerfs might have made it so that they don't have an amazing payoff for like the amount of effort you have to put in to win with them. And to be fair, in the previous season, like pre-update, when you put the effort in, they were way too good, and that was the issue. But now I think that you probably have to make that big brain work to basically just be as good as everyone else, or at least to be above average, I guess. And I don't know if people are that interested in playing that sort of play style. A lot of people jumping over to like Chaos Knights and other Chaos factions. Triple Whirlwind, Triple Desolation Squad, and full Siege Force when? No, thank you. I did play it. I played it at the start of the edition, chat. It was totally fine. It was definitely just fine. I love this team name, by the way. The Coors Light Sadath. That's good. All right, so we've spent our time beating around the Astra Militarum bush. Should we talk about what they're looking for? They are running Bulgrin today. 2 20-point Bulgrin squads. I wonder, the list is called Bulgrin's Last Hurrah. I wonder if this was a situation where this player was prepared for the event with a regular Militarum list, and then they were like, we're going to use new points 3 days in advance. And they were like, well, I have the Bulgrin, I guess, so we just got to cut a unit of Bulgrin. I suppose. Lord Soto Leontis, a platoon command squad, Death Mask of Valenius, plus a tank commander with Grand Strategist. I think this guy's going to be a windmill slam into every list, basically. Being able to order himself and another battle tank is huge. Without stripping or eating orders from Lord Solar. A Kanachi Jungle Fighter squad. Double Bulgrin. 2 big units of Bulgrin at their new expensive points value. That new, whatever, 37 point value. A Hellhound, Luminous Exterminator, double Rogodorn battle tanks, triple Scout Sentinels, damn. Plus 1 Tempestus Aquilon, 1 Tempestus Scion. Just a little baby Tempestus Scion unit. A lot of vehicles. It'll be interesting to see if the tank commander change pushes people into playing more tanks. I think the one part I'm worried about, and I almost wish... I mean, I guess this would be a rules update for sure. But I kind of wish that tank commanders had, like, an order-like ability on themselves, but could only order other tanks. Because I'm a little bit worried that the tank commander archetype gets very parasitic, right? You're paying 225 points for a tank that has +1 to hit. You're not paying 225 points for a tank with an order. Because, like, where are you going to put that +1 to hit? Is it going to be on another tank that you have to spend 240 points for? Or is it going to be on your Demolisher Cannon you already have? So the Grand Strategist Tank Commander seems incredible. But I'm a little bit worried that any non-Grand Strategist Tank Commander gets shoved out. Gets pushed out the airlock. Or at least they don't see play alongside other tanks because they're just going to order themselves. So I wonder if there's a universe where in the future we see, like, they have one order for another tank, and then they have, like, choose one. You get +1 to hit or +3 move every turn or something. Because then they can actually, like, branch those orders out. They basically get a free order for themselves. That would be cool. People are overestimating the tank commander. This might be a controversial take, chat. I don't think the Rogodorn is that exciting. I'm not a Militarum main, so I guess, like, take that with a grain of salt. But every time I've seen a Rogodorn battle tank on the table, it's been cool and impressive, and then it fires its gun, and then you realize that its gun is AP2 with a flat damage characteristic. So your opponent's like, I will Armor of Contempt, and then you're like, no. Once you wombo combo it out, it's, like, good, but then you realize, like, you're paying an extra 80 points over a Lehman Russ, and your output is equivalent because its strength characteristics are not high, and you don't have hit rerolls. I don't know. They've been uninspiring when I've seen them on the table. Maybe that's extremely controversial. Maybe that's something... Maybe people are going to roast me in the comments for that, but...
GW, but what if we made this amazing direct fire profile also indirect? Hashtag 10th edition design.
What if he was also indirect? Here's what they need to do to indirect fire, chat. To fix it. To repair indirect fire. Just cut it. Just get rid of it. Fuck it. Who cares? Just get it out of here. The Malkador Infernus is better? That doesn't sound right. Dorns are boring, which had a better effect than a blank, yeah. It's so interesting because they're like heavy infantry sweepers, but I don't know if that's what Militarum, like, super needs. And to be fair, right, they are significantly harder to kill than a Lehman Russ for the same points. Your value in a Rogodorn is going to go farther if you're buying... Instead of buying, like, 1.4 Lehman Russes or whatever, 1.5 Lehman Russes, you get a Rogodorn. You're going to get more than 1.5 per, like, X the survivability. And for that, I do think that the Rogodorn is, like, a good anchor. It doesn't seem to me like it's the primary damage dealer, though. Because their weapon profiles are just super mediocre. And the same is not true for, like, Demolisher Cannons. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can combo them out to do damage. But first of all, You have no hit roll rerolls outside of the Scout Sentinels, which everybody gets. And your base profiles are like your strength characteristics are really low. And you can just do the same thing with a regular Leman Russ, right? So like you're not doing anything that just spending the points on Leman Russ would not also do. They're like the stacked buffs can also affect everything else in the faction, right? So just being like, well, the Rogue Lord's good because you can stack the buffs, and you're like, well, yeah. But everybody gets the benefit of those buffs now, so those could be anybody. Anybody could be getting those. Funny that they give the exact door roll to the Tyranid effects, the Tyranid Codex. Yeah, I think they're trying to like push archetypes, right? Like I almost wonder if they were to do it again, would like Repulsor Executioners have like the same ability too? They do love giving things with the Executioner ability when your target is below half strength, do a thing. Anything that says it's an Executioner on the top of the data sheet, but it feels like they wanted to make that like T12 2-up save profile, and they wanted to be like, you also have this thing. How to justify Desolator's existence? If you're killing indirect fire, no, it's not. They're a missile launcher team. Most of their damage, like back when Desolators were the shit, right? They would pepper you with indirect and they would attrition you. They were like this 1-2 punch. They would be like attrition. By killing your infantry, so you're forced to move forward, and when you move forward, they actually do the significant portion of their damage with their missile launchers, right? Because they have like D6 plus 1 damage missile launchers, and when you fire discipline combo them, like back in the day, the missile launchers would actually just kill knights and stuff. Like that was like the indirect fire was to give them something to do before they killed you with their missile launchers. Just lean into the fact that they're a long range heavy weapon team, and I think you're okay. That has like a little anti-infantry gun like on top. But that unit is emblematic of indirect fire being super toxic, and the fact that they constantly have to nerf indirect fire every single edition it's broken. Just get rid of it, dude. Make people draw line of sight to each other. Make artillery weapons like really long range or whatever, and hard hitting but weak, but like fragile, Make them like tank hunters. It's fine. It would be more interesting. Yeah, turn 1 to 3, hide behind a wall for sure. That was it. Old Oath definitely helped. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Old Skill Oath of Moment was huge. But a lot of times you would just be fishing for 5-up lethals anyway, because you would like free strat the go back into Devastator Doctrine, and then you would hit Storm of Fire, and you'd be AP1, ignore cover, 5-up lethals, full rerolls. I mean, the unit was like incredible, but that was a very different time. Everyone was getting killed by Wraith Knights, so it didn't matter. Desolation Squad with Deathwatch Special Ammunition was nerfed before 10th edition because of how many mortal wounds. The Desolation Squad didn't interact with that. It was good because you got like anti-infantry. The problem was when you had combi weapon units that could get affected by it. That was like the part that people freaked out about, because you would look at like Stern Guard veterans or something where everything in the unit has anti-infantry is anti-infantry devastating wounds, and then you improve their anti-infantry to 2+, and suddenly they're like full rerolling. You like tone with the Exoclades, you hit 2 units with it, and 2 units like full rerolling with like all the buffs, and just like plowing like 15 mortal wounds into infantry squads or whatever. That was the issue. Nobody else did mortal wounds. They just got improved like wound characteristics. But it was still good because you could shoot like strength 4 idiot castle and launcher shots that were wounding on 4s against any infantry profile in the game. It wasn't bad. You saw Desolation Squads in that detachment still, which is actually pretty cool. It was funny, though, because I actually think that people overestimated how strong it would be. They put the combo together, which was, I guess, like, probably not considered by the design team, which is a little embarrassing, because that's just... You, like, wrote that in the rules and then forgot that you gave the units both of those abilities. Kind of strange. But also, everyone then spent 6 months getting annihilated by Wraithguard. We could have nipped that in the bud. It actually would have been fine if it was a rock, paper, scissors between everyone getting killed by a Wraithguard unit and the Wraithguard unit instantly dying to a teleporting Sternguard veteran squad. You're like, I have T7 with a 2+ save, a -1 to be hit. I can like reactive move a bunch of different times, and like one Sternguard veteran gets line of sight to you, and the whole unit vaporizes instantly. That metagame would have looked a lot different. I'm not actually sure it would have been that big of a deal, but I don't know. Aeldar could only win in that situation at that point. They'll always be t-shirt cannons. It's true. They do look like that. All right, we're talking about Biosanctic Brute Surge, chats. Patrick Love over here. Playing some Biosanctics. All right, I can't remember what these enhancements are. Damn. So this is the Biophagus and like mutant detachment. So the aberrant units, any unit with a Biophagus and Pure Strain Genestealers, all get the big benefits. They get +1 attack on the charge and +1 2 charge, if I remember correctly. There's actually, I think, like, conceptually, probably one of my favorite detachments. Yeah, +1 2 charge. If they made a charge move that turn, +1 attack. So there are triple abominant. One has predatory instincts. So that is infiltrate, and you can heroically intervene for free. One has alien majesty. So you are -1 objective control while engaging them. It's kind of, I guess, a points filler, most likely. We have a Biophagus to confer all of the abilities to a new unit. A Clamavus, and a Patriarch with Biomorph adaptation that is +1 AP and damage. So I think it goes to AP 3 or AP 4 damage 3. I think, is that right? With devastating, it's actually kind of sick. AP 3 damage 3. There's only 5 attacks though, but he is twin linked. The Patriarch's weapon profile is always a little bit weird. I don't know. They feel, for such a big imposing combat character, they feel kind of underwhelming. But with that upgrade, they seem good. We have double Acolyte Hand Flamer squads, 1 Neophyte Hybrid squad, 1 Goliath truck to ship them up the table. Looks like 3 units of 5 Aberrants for the Abominants to go into. All the Achilles Ridge Runners. I think we're kind of like locked in on the 5 Achilles Ridge Runners these days. It seems like every list is including them. So you have the 1 heavy mortar for crossfire, and then 2 with spotter heavy mining lasers. So they have +1 ballistic skill, and they shoot the big anti-tank gun. A big hybrid metamorph squad. That's for the Biophagus to jump into, so they get all those buffs as well. Let's take a look at the hybrid metamorphs. Actually, they have a fight on death, I believe. Oh, they got that switched over, actually. They have a blood surge move now, which is a little bit less exciting because I think most of the time they just die. They're like they have a 5+ feel no pain, but like, okay. They do have scout, so you can put them in the truck and they scout forward. So their threat range is actually pretty far. They can scout and then disembark and then move and then charge at +1, which is kind of cute. And then each of them has between either 3 up to 4 2 damage attacks, or up to 6 1 damage attacks. The leader gets both. He both has the extra attacks and the better profile because he's so cool. And then they get that new turn verbiage there, where if they don't have hand flamers, then they get the enhanced surge move. But it looks like we are putting hand flamers in the unit. Kind of, it saves themselves like a an extra data sheet, but it is interesting that they just have the option to take hand flamers, which just degrades the unit. It like makes them worse when you do that, which is very funny. With the Icon Ward, they have a 4+ feel no pain. Oh, that's cool, actually. I didn't know that. That's actually sick. That does... Yeah, that seems... That's definitely the intended course of play, too, right? Because it's he also has 6-inch Scout baked in, so they don't lose it when they get attached. Actually, does the Biophagus... I hope he does. That I actually don't know. They don't lose Scout, do they, if they attach with that guy? Oh, they do? Oh, they do. Okay. So they do not actually have Scout. If he's attaching in to that unit, which I imagine that he is, because that's like realistically the only place that guy would go. I guess theoretically he could attach into the Aberrants, and those guys could just be hanging out, but then they don't get any of the buffs. That's a little sad. It's too bad that they don't have the clause where if they attach into a Scout unit, they gain Scout. I really like that that technology when GW chooses to use it. Ew. The 4+ feel no pain does feel good though. It does feel like you're actually going to be using the Blood Surge at that point. I unironically did not know that he improved their feel no pain. That's actually sick. That's super cool. All right, should we move over to the Toronto Fall Open? We have a spicy result from this one, by the way. So this, again, was streamed over by... I'm not going to get rid of my page here. This event was streamed by Tabletop Live. Shout out to the guys over there for live streaming this one. And Skari. New points. Huge nerfs to Drukhari. Drukhari got hit directly in the kneecap. Skari with the big W. Still using Drukhari. Let me tell you, this man, he is not all talk, because holy shit does he come out of the woodwork every once in a while and just murder an entire event full of people. He also, little spicily, was on Realspace raid today, Chad. Mr. Skari, I'm sure he'll have an event breakdown over on the Scarcast, so you can hear about his tournament experiences over on his channel, I'm sure. But what an absolute Chad. Rocking the Realspace raid. He's got a Archon with Labyrinthine Cunning, 1 Beastmaster, Lilith Hespeраx, and Urian Rankar. So we do have the triple threat, so we get all the additional pain tokens, because we're taking Urian and Lilith. And I was wondering, with the nerfs to Incubi, is it like theoretical that we start to see more of a homunculus bent to Drukhari lists now? And I think that might be happening. We have a Cowboy Warrior unit, 1 Rack, 1 Witch, 1 Raider, double Venom, not that many transports, a Court of the Archon for the Archon to jump into, double Chronos, double Grotesques, and we did see their Grotesques last week as well, seeing some play with a big brick of 6. And you can insensible to pay them, so they're -1 to be wounded. They're actually relatively tanky for cost once you start dumping strats on them. And then you can heal them with Urian too. Double Mandrake unit for utility. It was like, I guess it was a little wild that these guys were 65 points with like a devastating wound gun. But also, fucking scouts for 65 points. I don't know if I'm that surprised by it. Just Space Marine things. 1 Ravager. 1 Reaver for utility, single Scourge, and yeah, double Talos. So we do have a lot of the homunculus bent, the focus on the homunculus covered units. But these armies are so interesting because this army is like, you can sort of tell that it's extremely technical, right? Because there are no big, like huge, like giant bricks. Like there's the Court of the Archon, which is going to jump into probably the Raider alongside the heavy weapon team out of the Cabalite Warrior Squad. So the Splinter Cannon, Darklance Shredder, Blaster, Sybarite. And then you dump the other 5 idiots off in a Venom, and they go do actions for you and lock in objectives. And then this unit bounces out with the Archon and the whole court, and then they get full hit and wound rerolls, and they blast people away. Like, that's kind of standard. But we're not seeing, like, these, like, big Incubi bricks. We're not seeing... you know, like the huge like Tantalus combos or Razorwing bombers are the other things that we've been seeing in Drukhari lately. This is just a ton of really sticky utility units just running all over the table. So I bet it scores incredibly highly. A little bit of a lack of anti-tank, but if you apply pressure where it needs to be, you're probably okay. Not to mention that those Talos, if you get the correct matchups, the Talos can actually do super hot because of the twin Haywire blasters. With a pain token, which you do have a lot of in this detachment, you get full rerolls with the Haywire blasters. So your ability to convert into mortal wounds is pretty consistent. And it looks like the Scourge is also running Haywire blasters. I wonder. I'm like curious about Skari's matchups. Did he play any monster lists? Battle Sisters, Bringers of the Flame. He actually had old points on his list here. 135 points up in this one. Still with the Triumph, though. Still rocking Triumph. Oh, but he was rocking Sacrosanct. No wonder his list didn't increase in cost that much. He was a mass Sacrosanct. Oop, that's the wrong list. Kai Naime. He played the mirror match? What? Okay. I guess when you're in the Skari meta, everyone's just rocking Drukhari at that point. If you can't beat him, join him, you know? Chris Haynes running Adeptus Custodes. Stephen Leong running Dark Angels Gladius Task Force. Lionel Johnson, but a Chad. Vincent Poretti running Blood Angels Liberator Assault Group. And he played Devin, who is on Necrons, it looks like, yeah. It is a monster list, actually. But fortunately, they are monsters that the sort of mass attack units can deal with, so it's not the end of the world there. Man, Devin Swan's back on the 6 Catan Shard list. That's insane. It's got 2 Horksborg Destroyers and a Scorpec Lord. The rest of the list, and I guess 5 Immortals, and the rest of the list is Catan. Devin Swan looks like he lost in the finals there. Those two played in the finals. I bet that was a hell of a game. Devin, obviously, incredible player. T5S2 champion as well. Not to toot my own event series here, but a very prolific player online. I bet that was a super sick game. The Drukhari breakfast sampler, dude. That is what it is. Incredible. What if interact only works with true line of sight, so ignore obscuring? I think that the platonic ideal of Warhammer 40,000 doesn't have true line of sight at all, so I have a strong vote against. World Eaters actually had a pretty good showing this weekend. We can talk a little bit about World Eaters. I think it's going to be normal stuff. Angron, Lord Avocado, a Master of Executions with Berserker Glaive, Jackals, Corn Berserkers, and Berserkers, a Rhino, and a bunch of 8-bound. Yeah, it's not that actually interesting. But I think it might be a metagame thing. I'm not really sure. But World Eaters are looking fairly strong. We can talk about some brand new Blood Angels. Francois Lalonde. Rockin' some Liberator Assaults. Jose, smash that like button. Yeah, everybody get in on that like button. So this is first look. Our first look at the brand new Blood Angels. What the new Blood Angels are playing. So Liberator Assault Group is their new incarnation of the Sons of Sanguinius, but it is improved somewhat because it now gets Advance in Charge on a stick, which is kind of insane when you think about it, because the only thing that was like potentially putting Blood Angels back into Gladius Task Force was their capacity to Advance in Charge.
20-man Crusader is too much, but 6 Catan is okay. WTF.
Sumo, thank you for the super chat. Yeah, I don't get the heavy upcharge in Crusaders. I understand if they wanted to make the big unit a little bit more expensive, If they're like, hey, it's plus 10 or 20 points or something, you're like, okay. But 40? What was that? But to be fair, Devin is like the only person running 6 Catan. And Catan did get nerfed in the previous update, and everyone dropped them like they were hot. You see 1 or 2 Catan shards in some Hypercrypt Legion builds, but generally speaking, they are not the mainstay. Devin is just, he's been rocking that list for like a whole year, and he just can't be bothered to play something else, I think. So this detachment, yeah, is rocking the new stratagem. I'm just looking up what it's called, sorry. Aggressive assault. After you advance, you can either shoot or declare a charge. The interesting part about these, the new enhancement or the new stratagems in the updated Liberator Assault Force is that you could choose to Battleshock yourself to then get an improved effect. Very thematic. I like it very much. So if you want to be worse at taking objectives from your opponent, you can actually be more effective. So in that case, you can shoot and charge. Pretty good if you're I don't know, RDOC 0 or something, or you don't need to use any stratagems. I think that they lost their taunt. I believe is what they gave up for that, if I remember correctly. They still have their fall back and charge. They still have their red rampage, armor of contempt. But yeah, I think they gave up their taunts, and now they have a new thing where once they are charged, you can benefit them. I guess that's the old fight on death, but they're probably like sort of restricting their use of fight on deaths because I think they can be really problematic in melee matchups. And like a melee mirror, if you're the player with fight on death on a stick, then you're probably looking pretty good. So we've got Asterath, a Blood Angels captain with the icon of the angel. Which still just messes with people who fall back from you. A Blood Angels captain with Rage-Fueled Warrior. That one gives you a once per game activation of Sustained Hits 3. That's a replacement for Master Artisan. Master Artisan moved, I think, to the Sanguinary Guard detachment, if I remember correctly. But you get Sustained 3, so theoretically you're doing that on your finest hour turn. And you're targeting your Oath unit and just fishing for Sustained 3 activation or conversions. And if you get a bunch of 6s, you just kill whatever you're fighting. Chief Librarian Mephiston, so the new lone operative Mephiston, the fight first little friendly lone operative guy. Commander Dante and Lamarties. We had 1 Assault Intercessor squad, 2 Assault Intercessor squads. In fact, I imagine that. I guess the captain jumps in one of them. I think the other one looks like it's naked, probably. I think these are all jump. Oh, there's 2 Blood Angel captains. It's fucking duh. I hadn't talked about this. In my head, one of these had a jump pack, but they don't. Icon of the Angel usually goes to the jump pack unit, but I guess that. So yeah, 2 Assault Intercessor squads for the 2 Blood Angels captains. I guess it's been too long since I've looked at Blood Angels, actually. They've been sitting in the weird limbo of having new supplement but still using old rules, which means that like watching them play is basically a waste of time. 2 Impulsors, still rocking double jump pack intercessors, jump pack assault intercessors. Blood Angels do feel like the natural place for these guys to sit. They are more expensive, but they have such a synergy with Red Thirst with the detachment ability. So they get +1 attack and +2 strength. So they go to strength 6. They kill basically all other. They go from trading up into basically all other utility units to just killing all other utility units, and they're faster than all the other ones as well. So I think that these units are probably a little bit tough to justify in other detachments, but are excellent in this one. 2 units of Death Company Marines with jump packs. I think one goes with Asterath and one goes with Lamarties. With their new annoying weapon breakdown, although they did drop like 50 points, I think, between the character and the unit. So you lose a bunch of Power Fists for significantly worse attacks, but you are a lot cheaper, so that is good. And you do have Advanced Charge now. An Infiltrator squad plus a Sanguinary Guard squad with Dante in it, and I believe, if I remember correctly, Dante gives you +1 to Advanced Charge. So his capacity to combo with the Advance and Charge Stratagem is crazy, because he basically turns you into a move 14 unit. So this big unit is Sanguinary Guard. Everything's hitting on 2s, because he gives them +1 to hit. They're advancing d6 +1 and then charging 2d6 +1. So they just go forever and hit super hard, because they're all getting that +1 attack and +2 strength as well on the charge, with potentially with lance on top of that. We do have all and Carmine Blades in that unit, I think, for that lance. You can take the spears on them now to like give them a baked-in lance, but they lose an attack. So if you're just paying a CP for lance, you might as well just take the blade that has a higher AP and volume anyway. And then they're -1 to be hit and wounded with 3 wounds and a 4+ invuln save. So, I don't know, seems pretty good, shit. That unit is expensive, but holy shit is the threat real. They're 5 attacks, strength 8, AP 3, 2 damage. You can get lance lethal on them. So it's 30 attacks plus Dante. Huh. Huh. Bring back Librarian Dreadnought. I know. We watched Ruben's out yesterday, or on Saturday on stream, play probably what is to be the last Librarian Dreadnought. That might be the last Librarian Dreadnought that is streamed in 40k. Which is, now that I'm saying that out loud, I'm having thoughts about it. Now I'm sad. You've made me sad, chat. I put out a video 2 years ago about the Crusaders. I did. I'm very proud of that video. That unit has 100 attacks. First of all, it is clearly a typo that their basic infantry have 5 attacks each. I think you would solve a lot of the problems by fixing that, because the unit's output is way too high. They kill like anything in the, once you've assembled the combo on the Primaris Crusader squad, they kill literally anything in the game. Like, it's not even close. Turns out 100 5-up critical lance lethal attack, or lethal hits with rerolls is very good. It's very good, and they go to like AP2. If you're like AOC'd, you might be able, in a 2+ save, you might be able to survive it, but it's still a ridiculous amount of damage. I know, yeah, it's been like 2 years, and those guys still have 5 chainsword attacks each. I don't get it. I don't get it, chat. I don't understand. Maybe they just don't know. They're like, why are people playing this unit? They're not even that good. They're basically just assault intercessor users. Like, no, they have an extra attack. Nobody has noticed. I would not. They've fixed typos way after the fact in the past. Yeah, that's not a new thing. I think for a while it was the only thing keeping them relevant, right? Because for a hot minute they just would not have seen play if they only had 4 attacks. But I think that has since changed. And it is funny, occasionally they do that. I was just at Battle for Salvation last week. I was having a discussion with Ben, the head judge. And he was saying, like, it's so obvious, and having heard him say it, I think I definitely agree. It's so obvious that the Caladius Grav Tank is an excellent example. The Caladius Grav Tank was, like, heavily typoed. Because its tiny twin heavy bolter weapon is not twin-linked. The like, literal twin weapon is not twin-linked, but its top guns are twin-linked. And I think that was definitely a transposition of that ability. But nobody cares if the little shitty 1 damage like pop gun is twin-linked. But it is incredible if the big anti-tank gun is twin-linked. And it doesn't really make sense because they would give a twin-linked weapon lethal hits against monsters and vehicles too, which is like, okay, I don't know if I need that. I'm like, wounding on 3 is reeling anyway, so lethal hits is not that valuable. And it was like very clearly a typo, but it was the only thing keeping the datasheet relevant, so they just kept it in. And that was like his headcanon, and I think that's actually exactly how it happened. And I think that's another example of like, oop, this unit has 100 attacks. Well, no one would take it if it didn't have 100 attacks, so we're just going to leave it in. It gets problematic when you start considering them to be too strong, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with, but it is what it is. Greyfax Leadership 5 for a year and a half. Was that a typo? Was that a typo, chat? I think it's okay for like a devout Ordo Hereticus Inquisitor to have a high leadership characteristic. I don't know. Neurolictor missing Synapse was probably a typo, but it's also Tyranids. Yeah. Fucking Tyranids, dude. Jesus Christ. It was wild when that thing released. It was not a typo. It's crazy. They introduced new typos with Lord of Deceit to Drukhari until recently. Last two RTTs, you got to have 36 inches of +1 CP. Right, she's not Leadership 5, but she got a whole new codex, right? Like, it's a totally new context. Oh, yeah, she was Leadership 4. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, I don't know if you can, like, read too much into leadership. Everyone's like, oh, my leadership characteristic is bad. Well, first of all, here's my hot take. Here's my hot game design take, chat. You ready for some spicy hot game design? Hot takes from Trevi. Morale mechanics are bad and unfun. That's it. I think that if you're trying to design a game to be a realistic simulation of events, you need morale mechanics. They're very important. I think that they are the antithesis of what makes miniature games fun to play. So I think there are ways that you can reframe morale mechanics in different ways that I think are interesting and cool. But having your people be scared and run away, or be scared and become less effective by being scared, is no one's idea of having a good time. And I think if you're not designing like a historical war game, it would behoove you to just forget that they exist. Not only, especially in the context of Warhammer, it is not only largely lore inaccurate to include lots of morale mechanics, right? Because Warhammer is the most like rah, Terminator, the Predator handshake like sci-fi universe in all of existence. This isn't Halo where we're just regular men like fighting incomprehensible horrors and freaking out. Everyone's a genetically engineered superhuman or some sort of brainwashed fanatic. So largely it doesn't make sense in the context of the universe. But it also means that once your units start taking casualties and your models are dying or becoming less effective, there is a chance that they become further ineffective, which is just not fun. If you're dying, you don't also want to be running away. And it restricts your capacity to come back into a game once you've started to suffer casualties and had those casualties turn into additional detrimental effects. I think from a game design standpoint, it is like really just bad. It's really not fun or interesting. There are other things you can do where you can have weapons that pin or suppress people that have like effects that represent morale, and that makes sense. Or you can have abilities that work around morale. You have specific units that start to degrade once they're taking casualties. But building it into the unit is much more interesting than building it into the core engine of the game. And then you start to and then exactly what happens with Battleshock start to happen, where everyone goes, well, how come my soulless robot like king is the same level of bravery as an Imperial Guardsman? And you're like, well, I guess because it's like a game mechanic. Like maybe don't look too deep into it, but the only reason it exists is like in order to be a simulation thing. So like, why is it a game mechanic? This doesn't make sense. And then you have to have weird conversations about it. Just axe it, along with indirect fire. Take it out. That's my game design hot take for the day. What you're hearing is Imperial Guard should be the only ones who take Battleshock. Yeah, like you can make that a mechanic, right? You can be like, hey, you can take 20 Imperial Guardsmen once half of them are dead. Something happens, right? Like, I don't know. that could be part of it. Like, they could have cheaper infantry with the downside that the infantry have this thing that makes them less effective once they start to die. And like, okay, sure, that makes sense. Like, do that with Gretchen, you know? But like, why are Gretchen, you know, like a Grot is like, you know, leadership 8 or whatever, 2 points higher than like Gaskell Thraka, and Gaskell Thraka has a chance of just like freaking out and running away. Like, okay, man. He's like, Makari's dead. What will I do? I guess if you only ever take 2 Mega Knobs with him, that he's like basically immune to Battleshock. But he could get it done elsewhere, but it's okay. Rewrite Chaos Knights rules? I'm not saying like every time we have one of these game design discussions, people are like, well, how would this mechanic work? This mechanic is about Battleshock. You're like, yeah, this is in the context of an entirely different game. Like, were this to be Warhammer, this would be a new edition with entirely new rules. It's obviously, I'm not saying that what should be done in the December update is for Games Workshop to remove the Battleshock section of the rulebook. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that if they wanted to have the game be more interesting in a future update, they would dramatically reevaluate their use of morale rules in 40k in a future edition. Make a unit -1 hit when below half strength. But here's the thing, chat. A unit that's below half strength is already less effective at attacking because half of them are dead. Like the only reason that vehicles do that is because they are single entity units, so you can't represent them becoming less effective when they're attacking without applying some sort of mechanical effect on them, because they're either alive or they're dead, right? Unless you're doing like weapon destroyed mechanics and stuff like that, which just gets complicated and annoying. A unit becomes less effective when it takes casualties because it's taken casualties. The men with the guns are gone now. Half of your unit is dead. Why do you also need to apply -1 hit? Like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, if my opponent shoots me and kills half my unit, I've lost half my unit, and I now have less models to attack them with. Why do I also then get a subsequent penalty? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make for a fun or interesting game. Old world goblins are afraid of elves, so you're left hoping not to run into an entire faction because of basic weakness. Yeah, old world's a different can of worms, I think, because old world and old world's like a very classic game. It's basically, and it used to 7th edition Warhammer Fantasy used to literally have an official historical conversion called Warhammer Historical. You could just buy it. You could buy a book that told you how to play Roman legionaries in the 7th edition Warhammer system. That was just a thing that Games Workshop sold. That game tries very hard to be basically a historically set fantasy game, right? It tries very hard to be a game that, you know, works like sort of more simulatory than Warhammer, than 40k and the more modern games do. There's a question you have to ask yourself whenever you're designing a miniature game of like what end of the spectrum you want to be on. And Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar tend to be on the more gamier side, but like the old school games like OG Warhammer Fantasy were a little bit more on the simulation side, where they're trying to accurately represent like battlefield circumstances. I think Warhammer was 40k was very much like that through like 7th edition, where they had armor facings and all this, you know, sort of like realistic mechanics. But it's almost impossible to accurately depict that sort of conflict in a turn-based game, so it's much easier to design for if you just forget you've done it. If you just leave it alone, it's much easier. It makes your life easier. Battleshock applying penalties to dying squads is like a bank charging you for not having enough money in your bank account. That's so true. You just kick me while I'm down, why don't you? I'm already getting murdered. Oh, man. Chris, hey, let's get back to these lists, by the way, chat. It's Tactical Tangents once again. Tactical Tangent strikes again. Chris Haynes that Scary also played, rocking some brand new Adeptus Custodes. Running a shield host with Trajan Valerian, the Custodian Guard Squad. Whoa!
Thou shalt be Battleshock if on the first Tuesday of the month, but only on turn 3. If Battleshocked on a Tuesday before turn 3, thou shalt ignore thy army rule. However, if they are Battleshock on a Tuesday after turn 3 on a full moon.
Ryan G with the $50, dude. Thank you, sir. That's crazy. You're so generous, man. I appreciate that. But yeah, Chaos Knight's army rule is very... I don't know. I think it's a pretty good example of a very poorly implemented Battleshock mechanic. And that's what it feels like what they wanted to do is like... I wonder if on a conceptual level, the problem was that Games Workshop applied a core mechanic to Battleshock. Because they had to restrict the power of Battleshock interactions because they had the opportunity to just like fuck you really hard. If your whole army gets Battleshocked and you lose all your scoring, like the game's just over, right? You die. So they're like, oh, well, Chaos Knights can only do it in some circumstances, and they apply -1 to hit, but that just means it's a coin flip that you pass or fail, so it's not reliable at all. I almost wonder if Battleshock should have just been a persistent effect that doesn't do anything, but then turns on additional effects. Like if Tyranids were just like, once per game, the entire enemy army's Battleshocked. And you're like, what does that do? And they're like, I don't know, look at your data sheets. And then like Neurolictors were like, +1 to win against Battleshock stuff. It gets -1 to hit. And it was just like, it didn't do the scoring thing, but it just gave you bonuses. I think that would be probably probably easier to design for, at least. If Makari dies, guys just take Battleshock? No, that was a bad example, to be honest. Like the only time Gaz dies or takes Battleshock is if you take big units of Megadobs, which is very rare. Because I think most of the time Gaskell is immune to Battleshock because he's a 2-model unit, so he can never take it by himself. And if you only take 2 Meganobs, by the time that they're below half strength, the Meganobs are dead. So it doesn't matter. I guess, actually... can you sync damage to Makari first? You can't, right? Because he's a character? Yeah, no. Yeah, I don't think there's any way that guys can naturally take Battleshock. So that was a bad example, chat. I'll cop that one. That was not a good example. Tyranids get grenades. If you're Battleshocked, their army ability becomes once per game. They can use the grenade stratagem. Oh my god. All right, chat. We're talking about this shield host and grenade stratagems. We just talked about the Caladius Grav Tank and its weird twin-linked heavy blaze cannon and its non-twin-linked twin bolt cannon. We get 2 units of Custodian Wardens, a Prosecutor unit, double Venatari, double Witch Seekers, Calidus Assassin, and Inquisitor Draxus. The reintroduction of Trajan Valerius is really interesting. There are no Blade champions in this list. There are 2 Warden squads for the 2 big characters, And then the guard squad for Draxus. But nobody can advance and charge, which is wild. But we are just dumping Venatari on people and shooting them, so maybe it's fine if you force the enemy to come into you. We do have a Calidus Assassin, so you have good utility as well. But, man, those Blade Champions. Lack of Blade Champions is wild. I guess the downside is that they're a little inconsistent. It does seem like sometimes they'll just, like, declare their ability and then flub, but what can you do? Nick Jagiello, also running Militarum, to an X and 1 record. Lord Solar and a Militarum to Pestis Command Squad. No platoon commands, chat. We are not running the Solar Mastervox combo. Just taking the Pestis Command Squad. 2 units of Katachi Jungle Fighters. A trillion Chimeras. 4 Chimeras. Jesus. Double Attilan Rough Riders. So, we cut the Bulgrin for a bunch of Chimeras. I wonder if there are Khazarkin? What could be inside them? A Hellhound. 3 standard Leman-Russ battle tanks. 1 Leman-Russ Exterminator. Oh, regular Ogryn! It's happening! So 130 points for the regular Ogryn squad and the Chimera? Probably okay, right? They do trade up incredibly into, like, other low toughness stuff. +2 Rapier Laser Destroyer batteries, 1 Tempestus Aquilons, double Tempestus Scions, and we do have a Tempestus Command Squad for one of those to jump into. Wow, the Ogryn seeing some play. Is 20 points a model the price point for Ogryn? The damage does seem like it's there. Although their survivability is pretty light. But they are high toughness, so they don't just like die to random infantry guns. Which is good. And I guess like a base 5-up armor save is like probably okay. Fascinating. Do you think we run like fighty Lord Solar? You think we run Lord Solar in a Rough Rider team? Probably not, right? I have seen it though. And he just sort of hangs out in the back and then counter punches in the late game because he does have a bunch of 2 damage melee attacks. He's actually not that bad at attacking. Watch some Legends, both Ogryn and Bulgrin, they're just like, fuck it, this is too hard. Just axe those guys. No, the community would riot if they Legended Ogryn. Could you imagine? Could you imagine we're like 2 years out from Darktide and everyone's like still riding high on the Ogryn, like the Ogryn bodyguard memes, and suddenly they're just like, fuck it, you can't play them anymore. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that would go over very well. We do have a little bit of Thousand Suns here. Malachi Fowler did go X1 with Thousand Suns, 5-1, but lost the first round. So a little bit of submarine energy there. Disc Aramon, an Umberlific Crystal Exalted Sorcerer, an Arcane Vortex Infernal Master. Look at these new points values, chat. Holy shit, they're so expensive. Magnus the Red, Demon Prince with Lord of Forbidden Lore. I like that we have this new 200-point Warp Flamer squad. Is a Rubric Marine worth the same as a single Ogryn, chance? I don't know. A single unit of 5 Rubrics, and then a bunch of Vortex Beasts, triple Midolith Vortex Beast, and double Chaos Spawn. I wonder if the new direction for the faction is the Magical Chaos Knights list. Unironically, I think that might be the way to go. Like, if you play 2 to 3 Midolith Vortex Beasts, plus Magnus, plus, like, 3 Forge Fiends. Oh, the Forge Fiends also got nerfed, actually, right? So that list actually still went up quite a bit. They were almost certainly too cheap, but they didn't feel too oppressive. People weren't really playing them. But when you compared them to the other Forge Friends elsewhere in the Super Faction, it was, like, really silly. They were, like, 60 points less than the Chaos Space Marine ones. But obviously not having, like, a bunch of rerolls into Devastating Wounds is not quite as exciting. I bet there's play there. I bet there's play. Like, Vortex Beasts at 160 are still good. I don't think anybody would argue that Vortex Beasts aren't great. You don't have great ways of generating Cabal points efficiently anymore, which is a little bit sad. Like, maybe you reintroduce the Hellbrute. And then you play, like, just regular guns, and you, like, plan on, like, free twisting something and shooting it to death. I don't know. They do have a benefit on their Predator Destructors, or all their Predators, in fact. Their Predator Heavy Bolters are +1 AP, so they actually go to base AP2, which is kind of sweet. AP3 against Infantry on the Destructor. So, like, there's maybe something there. I don't know if you're that excited about it, though. And then it feels like you're not quite playing Thousand Suns either. Like, I don't know if that's the fantasy that people are that into. Alright, we do have a couple of other results from some other events. Harbor Heresy. This was a 25-player GT. Jason Bird took it down 4-0-1. Tied Donald Plummer in the quarterfinal game, 72-72. That is just a natural tie. That's not a differential scoring tie. They just got the same score in the game. Rockin' Chaos Knights. And this is a pretty spicy Chaos Knights, if I remember correctly, because there are a ton of demons in it. There are a billion demons. Mostly it's the stuff you would expect. Warlock Stalker, Brigand. By the way, chat, I just bought Brigands. They're in the mail right now for my demon army. I couldn't figure out how to make the demons work, and so I just bought Chaos Knights because they're cheaper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carnivores. So we are running 11 total war dogs, and then a bunch of demons. Double Nurglings, double blue horrors. So we have infiltrating, and we have some relatively resilient. I don't want to give blue horrors the credit to pink horrors, but some relatively resilient objective holders. They do have Deep Strike, which is good, so they're good utility, and they also they split into Brimstones, but they don't split any farther. Although I believe that the downside is that they're only OC1, so they are easier to kill than they have a tougher time taking objectives than the pinks do. But if you're not 3-inch deep striking them, because you're not playing Chaos Demons, it doesn't really matter that much. War Dogs keeping Battleline is funny. Oh yeah, because you can you can get Battleline synergies off them. Yeah, you're like, here's a bunch of greater demons. I'll raise the banner with this carnivore. Yeah. Excuse me. Let's see. Blade and Bolter also saw some undefeated Dark Angels. Jeremy Capco undefeated with a fairly spicy Lionstorm Spearhead. Rocking Lionel Johnson with a Tech Marine with Target Augury. No Master of Machine War. He's keeping his Assault Jump Pack Intercessors, which is an incredibly spicy decision. There's the Ballistus Dreadnoughts I was expecting to see. 130-point Ballistus Dreadnought, chat. Oh my god, what a steal for these bad boys. 2 Inceptor squads. We got Plasma Exterminators on them, so we got that Dark Angels theme going. And good utility. An Infiltrator squad to keep yourself safe from deep strikes. And then double Redemptor Dreadnought, 1 Repulsor Executioner, 1 Scout, 1 Calidus Assassin. So pretty standard, like pretty regular stuff. But I like the inclusion of the Lionel Johnson in this list. The downside, in my opinion, for Ironstorm Spearhead Primarchs, and this makes me a little sad, is that they're so slow. Big benefit is that if you're taking the Tech Marine already, and he's going to be in the middle of the scrum around the Redemptor Dreadnoughts, most likely, he can stand next to the Lionel Johnson and buff him, and if give him Lone Operative. And if Johnson is hanging out with the Redemptor Dreadnoughts, then he can counterattack whatever comes in to kill them, because they're most likely going to be sort of in the thick of it, because they're just the big tank, the damage sponges of the army. So that tracks. I think that brick is probably pretty strong, and especially because the Primarchs are a little faster now as of June, because they can walk through walls. So it's not quite as slow as you would expect, but it feels to me like losing the ability to advance and charge in Ironstorm Spearhead versus Gladius Task Force is going to be a loss. But obviously it worked out in this case because we won all our 5 games. So probably worth a reevaluation on my end. Now those were, at least on my end, all of the events that I could find, all of the large events, I should say, that I could find that used the updated points values. There were a bunch of RTTs that did. So sort of as we go down the list, we can find a bunch of smaller events. And look at all the like massive number of like 5-round GTs that we saw. It was crazy this week. Just an insane. And there were so many small team events that happened. An absolutely nuts week for 40k. Just in terms of the volume of events, it was crazy. I think I want to take take the opportunity to talk about. I'll look for some factions that we haven't talked about that did go undefeated at RTTs. We do get to talk about the Orktober APOC. Oh shit! Wait, is this the wrong one? Hold up. What? I might have clicked on straight up the wrong. I might have the wrong link here, chat. Dang it! I think I messed up. Is it not this event? I don't know what happened. All right, well, was it this one? Did I just literally click on the wrong one? No, that's a team event. All right, well, I think I messed something up here, chat, because I had it down as a Chaos Space Marine win on that one, but it doesn't look like this event got played. Dang! Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened there. All right, well, we'll skip that one real quick. Let's see. We can talk about some Kroot. You want to talk about Kroot? Here's some Kroot, chat. The Oogie Boogie Slam and Jam, RTT. This one was relatively large, 24 players. So actually the size of some of the GTs we're talking about here. Do I think White Scars have any play? I'm gonna be honest with you, chat. Oh, my face screen's been on this whole time. Y'all haven't seen the me try to struggle through opening this link that's broken. I'll be honest, I don't think White Scars are good. If the question is, I think there are White Scar styles of lists that are good. I actually think Bikers, or at least Invaders, might have some play. 60-point Invader ATVs seem incredible. It's almost a vehicle defensive stat line with a multi-melta. I think that there's like a Salamanders list potentially that uses those in large numbers in Ironstorm maybe. You might be able to make it work in Stormlance as well. And I also think the list that I'm playing right now, and I streamed yesterday, is Mass Storm Speeder. I think Storm Speeders are borderline overpowered with their new value. At least the Hammer Strike. The Hammer Strike is nuts at 125 or whatever it is. If you want to call those White Scars, that's fine with me. But if you want to play Corsaro-Con, you could maybe make it work if you just took like all that stuff in Corsaro-Con. But I wouldn't play like Mass Bikes in Stormlance or something. And with the con, I think that's probably bad. Astra Militarum is the king of 5th placings. That's actually true. Astra Militarum, you hear that like always the bridesmaid, never the bride, right? What's the always 5th place? Always the last groomsman to be picked, but never the groom. Firestorm's better for land speeders? Is it? I don't disagree that it's good. But the floating rerolls on every missile launcher shot is like so good. And the, like, advancing on a move 14 model, like, it basically doesn't matter. You're never shooting one thing with the land speeder, right? The whole idea is to shoot, like, 3 or 4 of them at one target. And if you have to, like, rely on sequential advance rolls, it doesn't feel that useful to me. I don't know. You might be right. I just have to play it. But so far, Ironstorm has felt very good with them. The amount of redundancy that that army has is incredible. Is there a universe where Dark Angel's Vice with the Bike Command Squad plus Invader ATB is good? I don't know. I don't know about the Dark Angel's Bike specifically. That was the other place I considered playing the Storm Speeders. Because they get fall back and shoot in that detachment, which feels pretty strong. But I think generally speaking, once they get engaged, they just die anyway, so it doesn't matter. We're talking about Tau Empire today, chats. Dustin Flynn. So it begins, chat. The Great Flood of Kroot. We will talk about some Death Guard momentarily, chat. Running 2 ATVs keeping them close together, so if one gets shot, the other one shoots back. Yeah, that's pretty solid. I'm wondering if there's a universe where you take 6, so you take like 3 invaders and 3 attached invaders. Although you have to pay for stupid outriders, and that makes me sad. And then you run like Vulcan, and they all get wound rerolls. And you can still take hammer strikes in that list, and you get wound rerolls on all their meltas too, all their multi-meltas. And it seems pretty good. I would probably play Firestorm in that one. I don't know, but I'm like brewing pretty deep right now, and for Space Marines, I'm deep in the Space Marine chamber for some meme lists to come up with. But we'll see how far we get with the land speeder list. My first game was impressive, but I did play 100 points down, and then my opponent survived. A Death Rod Terminator unit tanked 1,000 points in my army for 2 turns, and I lost. And I was like, okay, fair enough. So we're rocking Kroot Hunting Pack today. We got Commander Farsight, an Enforcer Commander, and Dark Strider, plus a Kroot Lone Spear with the Kroot Hawk Flock. So that's the no deep strike near me, please. Please, sir. Please no deep strike within 12 inches. 1 Breacher Team. 1, 2... Just 2 units of Kroot Carnivores? That's so small. I was expecting more Kroot Carnivores, chat. But only 2 units. 1 Devilfish. 2 Fire Knife Battlesuit teams for the Commanders. Oh, excuse me. Itchy nose. 1 Hammerhead Gunship. 2 units of Kroot Farstalkers. 2 Rampager units? What is happening? That's nuts. Alright, this is not what I was expecting when I clicked on this list. I expected a solid wall of serried ranks of gleaming Kroot troops. And instead what I got was 12 Krootox Rampagers. Excuse me? Plus 1 Skyray Gunship, 2 units of Stealth Battlesuits, 2 units of Investment Swings for scoring. What is this? That's insane. Alright, let's look at the Rampager datasheet. If I remember correctly, when these got first previewed, I shit really hard on them. And I think I stand by that. It is shocking to me that these are seeing success. They're 32 points a model? Okay. I guess they have a bunch of wounds. So I think we're just like, they're just a big bulwark of wounds. And I believe, do they get the detachment ability in Kroot Hunting Pack? I actually don't know. So they get a 5+ invuln save, which is like, I guess okay. Kroot models have a 6+ invulnerable save against melee and a 5+ against range attacks. They get +1 to hit if you're below starting strength, +1 to wound, or if the target's below starting strength, +1 to wound if they're below half. All right, that is good. Except nothing in this detachment speeds them up, I don't believe, right? And that's really their issue. Okay, they can be unshootable. All right, I'm picking it up, chat. I'm picking it up. So we have a 7-inch scouting unit. They're move 7. They're essentially melee only. They have a really bad ranged attack. Assault, pistol, strength 4. Who cares? They have 3 strength 4 lance attacks and then 4 strength 6 AP1 2 damage sustained attacks with the extra attacks. They also do D3 mortal wounds. They have exactly the blood crusher ability, but they have the bad version that's like sort of incomprehensibly trash. You select one enemy unit within engagement range of the Krootok's Rampager unit. Then every Rampager within engagement range of that rolls a d6, and on a 4+, your opponent takes d3 mortal wounds. So they average a mortal wound per model, but only for the models in engagement. And they're like 60 mil bases or something, 50 mil at least. They're big old boys. So it is very difficult to get too many of them in engagement range with your target. But they're not too expensive. They have a 5+ invulnerable save. And if you're shooting at your target with all of the battle suits and other like pew pew guns and stuff in the army, your target is probably below half strength. So as a finisher, this strength 6 AP 1/2 damage when you are when they're hitting on 2s and wounding on probably 4s is actually not too bad. So I'm picking it up, chat. I think I get why we are taking double Krootok's Rampager. Would these be better served by taking like 70 Kroot Carnivores? I don't know. But they certainly do more damage. At least Krootok's Riders are on ovals. That's true. That is true. Hey, Rapid ingresses the Rampages with the Homer. I guess that's cute. That doesn't override the normal setup restrictions, right? That's just an additional restriction on top of them. So as long as if the stealth battle suits like hop in, then you can ingress next to them. And within range of the side, the table edge. Guess that's okay. Feels like it defeats the purpose of them being like standing in the front of your army, but if it gets them into melee, it's probably fine. That's pretty cute. Well, chats, somebody's making Kroot Rampagers work, so that's already impressive. A little bit of Leagues of Votann action. Sean Martin going 3-0. Rocking an Einherjar champion with Grim Demeanor, a Grimnir with a Praising Glare, 1 Hearthkin Warrior Squad, 1 Sagittor, 20 Chthonian Berserks in land fortresses, I imagine, plus an Einherjar Hearthguard unit. Big 10-man. 2 land fortresses for the Chthonian Berserks to ride to battle in style with. Triple Hernkin Pioneers, double Hernkin Jaegers as well. Kind of standard stuff. We've been seeing the mainline land fortresses more recently, like carrying a bunch of combat stuff to battle, and then the Einherjar Hearthguard in the sort of sitting behind the land fortresses is huge because they're such a good at rapid ingress into the middle. And then like you have to deal with like what are we going to deal with? This huge unit of Einherjar Hearthguard that's terrifying and will kill literally anything in the game, or all these land fortresses that are just like actually taking the objectives, and then whichever deals with the land fortresses gets counterpunched by the Hearthguard, and theoretically you win out of that. And you have enough scouts and infiltrators that you can push back the line of engagement, so that you have a lot of room to work with. Wesley Pletcher, I imagine, is Ultramarines. Oh, it's Dark Angels. Kind of normal Gladius Task Force stuff. I do want to talk about Chaos Demons here. Steve Perello. What are we playing today? What? This looks like a Nick Nanavati special here, chat. Who do we call this? Endless Ed, the Endless Gifts Created and Clean one, a Lord of Change, an Everstave Lord of Change. What's Everstave guy's name? I want to say Eevee. I'm going with Eevee. But if anybody has a better suggestion, let me know. Rodigus plus the newly discounted Shalaxi Hellbane, only a mere 425 points. That's it for the low price of 425. Double Beasts of Nurgle, which I think are actually sick in this at 65 points a model, plus double Flamers, which is good utility as well. Yeah, this is just like straight up an Ignite list, I'm pretty sure. That man loves Lords of Change and Graded Clean Ones and Flamers. I wish these Flamers were AP2, chat. They're so good against light infantry, and they are so bad against Space Marines. It's like not having units. It's like you just paid points for nothing. And it makes me sad because if you play against literally anyone with 3-up saves, you just want to kill yourself. It makes me very sad for them. If they were base AP2 and they could defeat Armor of Contempt without having to draw it, I think the Flamers would be pretty strong. Or if they were higher strength, like base strength characteristic. But the fact that they're like kind of mid attack volume, low strength, low AP, they fall down on every section of the attack sequence, and they don't end up actually doing damage. The 3 Flamers averages like kills 1 Space Marine maybe. The downside, or the upside, is that they have 1,000,000 wounds for 75 points. You get 9 wounds with the 4+ invuln, which is sick. And oftentimes they don't die, but that's not super useful most of the time. Yeah, triple Lord of Change is insane there, champ. I don't know what that's an insane thing. With Great Unclean Ones though, like you can understand it. At least with one Great Unclean One, they can reduce toughness values on enemies, and so like. I wonder if there's a composition where it's like triple Guo, triple Lord of Change. Does that fit into one army? Can you make that work? All right, new recruit. I'm gonna need some help here. What does that list look like? Triple Lord of Change, some Sesame Street shit. They were, I think, on release. They were. They were super widely played. Like the first sort of competitive Demons list on release of the edition was Triple Lord of Change because they were like ludicrously inexpensive. They were like disgustingly cheap, if I remember correctly. They were like $2.15 or something. They were like probably a typo since like cheap. All right, what are we looking for? Great Unclean One. Oh, this is Epic Hero. No, I can't find them. Oh, we want... who cares? So we want triple Great Unclean One, triple Lord of Change, and then we put Ed on one of them, and we put EV on the other one. That's only 1,500 points, chat. There's still 500 points in this list. Is that good? I bet you could also play a Plague Drone unit, and you could play the payoffs for the Allegiant keywords, and a Burning Chariot. It's mounted. And then the rest is utility, so you go like Nurgling, Fleshhounds, maybe? We're 10 points off having Plague Bearers. That makes me want to die. I'm gonna play this list, chat. This looks actually kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie. Nah, I wouldn't play Kairos. Kairos has significant Kairos is more expensive than a Lord of Change and has worse output. And with the indirect nerfs, the fact that he has indirect fire, like you might as well write off the fact that he has indirect fire. because it is essentially irrelevant. His capacity to do damage with indirect fire is so anemic. He averages like 2 damage against almost any target. It's so bad. The Kairos is like interesting in the situation where you're like overwhelming your opponent with bodies, and this might be a situation like that. And then the Lord of Decidora comes in, and then he has the upside of giving you like CP back, which is nice, but he does so little damage that it's like basically irrelevant. He might as well not have an attack. So you're paying like 200 points, 270 points for this thing. It doesn't do any damage to your opponent. I'm so far off Kairos, it's not even funny. It's funny because like Radagast compared to a Great Unclean One is just like a strict upgrade. Or I'm not gonna say strict upgrade. He doesn't have a Feel No Pain and he doesn't have Gifted Nurgle, but he's at least like he does way more damage. Although he's like less synergistic. Kairos is like the opposite. he's like more expensive than the Lord of Change and is less synergistic and does less damage. It's just a huge downgrade. Poor Kairos Fate Weaver. Kairos suffers from the same issues as the Swarmlord. He explodes if you put him anywhere near the middle of the table. Yeah, except he's more expensive and he's a ranged profile, but his ranged weapon is horrible. He's like almost a knight in cost, and he has like 6 strength 9 D3 damage shots. Cat, Jesus Christ. What are you doing? You are so weird. Jesus. Ow. We talked about Hypercrypt later, earlier. You can scroll back. We talked about Devin Swan's list. Alright, chat. Magnus costs 465, and he's worth every one of them. Aww. I can't stay mad at you. You're being such an asshole today, but you're so cute. She's so cute and snuggly, chat. Alright. I promised that we would talk about some Death Guard, so that's what we're going to hop into now. Here we go. Battle Against Breast Cancer ran an RTT. This is the... Oh, I guess they also ran a concurrent team event. Damn. BABC. By the way, I'm streaming Battle Against Breast Cancer next weekend. Come hang out. They've asked me to come down to Virginia, and I'll be there. So there'll be an event up on the channel for that probably tomorrow. Either today or tomorrow, whenever I put the thumbnail together. If I stream in standing mode, that's true. That would be this. That's the secret technology. She wouldn't be able to get up. Yeah. Also, she knocked my camera. Dang it. All right, yeah, let's talk about this list. Rockin' Mortarion, the big man himself. Biologist Putrefier. So this is Ryan Schaum, by the way. Biologist Putrefier, double Malignant Playcaster. Love to see these little dudes on the table. I had a whole discussion with I actually played against Death Guard yesterday, as I mentioned. We had a whole discussion about the casters. The caster characters in Death Guard are really cool. And I think that they like fulfill this incredibly unique design space because they have those unique Chaos Familiars where they can supercharge their attacks once per turn, either in melee or shooting. And either one of them is incredible. I guess, or these guys don't have that. That's the Terminator Sorcerer I'm thinking of. But these guys do the -1 to wounds thing in melee, which is good, and they can slow enemies down. They also just have like a really good torrent weapon. All right. Mortarion, Tallyman, and Typhus. 1 big Plague Marine brick. It's actually just 5. It's just a 5er. I think people are kind of like bouncing off Plague Marines these days. It seems like everyone can sort of answer them at this point. So it seems like we are seeing less Plague Marines. I wonder if this is going to be a list more focused on Plague Bruce Crawlers. We have 1 Death Guard Rhino to ferry them around, a Death Guard Cultist unit for utility. Oh, it's bloat drones. Interesting. A big Death Shroud Terminator unit, so that's probably for Typhus to ferry around in. Typhus is a good inclusion with the Death Shroud Terminators because he can... you can stack -1 weapon skill with his aura or with his leadership ability, which is -1 to be hit in melee. So they can be -2 to be hit, -1 to be wounded, and potentially even -1 damage. So... and I guess you could be even -2 to be wounded theoretically, if you play caster someone. That's actually sick. Plus 3 fetid blow drones. Whoa! And then the allies coming in: Nurglings, Rodigus, triple carnivores. Carnivores. So this list has very little shooting. It's just incredibly aggressive. Do you mind, cat? Jesus. I'm trying to knock this like cleaning thing I have off my desk. Triple carnivores plus Rodigus plus Mortarion plus blow drones. One does have a flesh mower, so we do have a melee blow drone in there as well. This is like this is so aggro. Oh my god. Jesus. Cool. Cool list, chat. A little bit of Chaos Space Marine action in this one as well, too. Matthew Burgoon. Going undefeated with Emperor's Children. I wonder if this is a little bit of Liam Bissell action. So it's Veterans of the Long War? Yeah, it almost certainly is. Veterans of the Long War, so the Oath of Moment detachment. Pick a unit, get rerolls against it. War Master's Gift and the Chaos Lord. I'm gonna correctly quote this one. This is a 5+ critical wounds, not hits. Critical wounds, so he gets his Demon Hammer to devastate on 5s. Cypher, Fabulous Bill, Lucius the Eternal. Looks like 1, 2, 3 Legionnaire squads, 2 Rhinos. Oh, no Noisy Boys. Oh, we're leaving the Noisy Boys at home. That's probably fine. All this stuff can jump into the Legionnaire squads anyway. So I guess it's not that big of a deal. 2 Predator Destructors, 2 Vindicators, big chosen units for the characters to jump into, and a little tiny baby Warp Talon squad. Just 5 Warp Talons is so fascinating. I guess it's a good outlet early game because you can actually use them. They're probably alongside Dark Pacts and hit rerolls. I bet they're actually really efficient at killing like 10 infantry. Or maybe even 5 Space Marines if you don't have access to Armor of Contempt. So I bet they're a really good outlet for clearing utility stuff in this detachment. I don't know if I necessarily consider that, because normally you see the 10 to ensure that they kill whatever they charge, so they don't get stuck in melee. But if they're getting hit rerolls and you're only going into like T3 stuff, they're 4 attacks each, right? So they're 20 attacks, assuming you don't fail your Dark Pact. Full rerolls, hit and wound and sustain, probably. Which should be good enough to kill 10 of whatever. Actually, I really like that inclusion, actually. That's neat. That's neat. Hey, Table Up Live. What's up, dude? Nice to see you guys in chat. So I hope the stream went well this weekend. Looks like it was an insane event. We just talked about all the lists in there. And, yeah, man, Scary, killing it, dude. Killing it with Drukhari these days. What an absolute chat. But, yeah, hope that you guys had a good time over there at the event. Notorious Nurgle, triple carnivores, brutal late game. Do they come in late game, or are they like the first wave? Because it feels like if you're like hit it, if you're like you can plague spitter the like screeners, and then you can get the carnivores in because they're super fast and get their charge rerolls. And then follow up with like Mortarion and the Death Shroud Terminators. It sounds like just like waves of aggression. It sounds so brutal. They are the first wave? All right, yeah. Yeah, that's what it seemed like to me. All right. The other thing I wanted to touch on was this event, chat. We had a little Adeptus Mechanicus and Aeldari action at the Willard Free Folk RTT. This was 19 players. James Higley, undefeated with a Skitarii Hunter cohort. Rockin' Belisarius call. Hot diggity damn. Double Techno-Archaeologist, Skitarii Marshal with Cantic Thrallnet. So the duplicated Doctrina Imperative. People are dropping Vanguard like they're hot. I guess this list didn't actually, because Vanguard went up in points. Holy shit, okay. So we did run all 60 Vanguard. Just kidding. I lied to you. There were a couple lists that were basically trying to reduce the number of Vanguard they took and took more Rangers instead, but this one is just rocking all the Vanguard. We didn't change anything in this one. So 60 Vanguard, 20 Rangers, 1 unit of 3 Iron Shredder Ballistari that probably hangs out with the Cantic Thrallnet unit, so we can Protector Imperative those guys and Conqueror Imperative the other units. We have a Scorpius Dune Crawler, the newly expensivified Scorpius Dune Crawler, I guess, or excuse me, Astra Dune Crawler. It's not a Scorpius. Although to be fair, that was the June update that he got his new and improved weapon profiles. 1 unit of 5 Sicarian Infiltrators, the big unit of Rust Stalkers, so we can get the advance in charge with the advance in charge bonuses, the super long threat range off these guys in Conqueror Imperative. And then double Scorpius Disintegrators with Faramite Cannon. So I think generally pretty good stuff. It does look like we've maybe downgraded a Disintegrator into a Dune Crawler to make room for all of those Vanguard. That does seem like the change that was made. A little funny that the, I don't know, Adeptus Mechanicus didn't feel like the army that I was necessarily expecting to see points increases on, but it doesn't seem like the army has changed significantly as a response. I think that it seems like maybe there was a concerted effort in this points update to reduce the size of armies. And so these armies that were spamming like mass medium infantry, so these ones that were taking like 50 Taraxi, they might have like put their foot down and been like, hey, we can't be doing that. And that's why we saw some points changes to this army, but I can't speak to the Games Workshop design team's philosophy. Our sister's just gone after the Munitorum. We'll see how they do. It seems like they're doing okay. Like we saw a couple excellent ones, but it doesn't seem like they're not winning as much. I would expect a lot of like the competitives kind of like faction hoppers to have switched off sisters though. I think the people who are playing them are faction specialists for the most part. All right. Lastly, I want to talk about some Aeldari. Aeldari actually had a pretty good weekend. There was one event that I don't believe used the new points, but Aeldar scored a perfect 500, which I was surprised by. They had some absolutely wild game results, like winning 100-18 or whatever, which was very interesting. So I'd be interested to be a fly on the wall in those situations. But we did see this one at the Willard Free Folk RTT still. Lucas Payringer going undefeated with an Aeldari battle host, rocking a standard Autarch. We have graduated from the oppression of the Autarch Wayleaper. Now we have the regular foot guy, because he basically can give you 2 CP a turn. He gives you rights of battle on his own unit, plus the 1 CP for being the Warlord as well. We had a standard foot Farseer. On top of that, Corsair Void Reavers are seeing play at their new points value. We were talking about those on the last week's stream, and wondering if they were going to be the new utility unit. And it does seem like at least there's some experimentation happening. They have a invulnerable save on the Felarch, the unit champion. They're a weird unit. So their unit champion has an invulnerable save, so they can take some high AP shots just base. They have scouts, and they have hit rerolls on enemies and objectives, and a bunch of guns. In this case, we were taking a blaster and a bunch of power swords. So they're pretty good at fighting other utility units, low toughness stuff. They can cut through pretty quickly. If you want to, you can build them out with like D cannons and rifles and stuff. But it looks like we're taking the Oh, this one took a right. So we actually took different loadouts. We took 3 power swords in one squad, and 3 rifles in another squad. Fascinating. We have a Guardian Defender unit and a Storm Guardian unit for the 2 characters to jump into, so we can get access to that Rites of Battle on the Autarchs unit. So a lot of baseline Eldar infantry. Double Falcons. What's going in the Falcons? Are we putting the Corsairs in the Falcons, chat? I think we are. So that gives you Scout. Falcons are just like a good profile to begin with because they get a Bright Lance that you can get rerolls on thanks to the Battle Host ability, and then they also have another D6 damage weapon, the Pulse Laser, as well. So they actually put out some pretty solid anti-tank shooting. Getting them off the table is useful, and they can extend the range of those utility units on turn 1 as well. That's pretty cool. 2 Fire Prisms. If you would have told me in last year that Fire Prisms were getting a points cut, I would have fallen on my ass. Do you remember when these were 125 points, by the way, chat? Absolutely pants on head. But they did get a little bit of a points cut, so we saved 40 points on the vehicles here. And they give you some good backline shooting. They still get all the old school Fire Prism benefits of being able to like duck out, shoot a thing, and then fire and fade the Fire Prism back, so you can kind of indirect fire your target. Double Rangers. A Shining Spear unit, I believe, also got a points cut, if I remember correctly. But just a solid disruption piece. 2 units of Striking Scorpions for infiltration. 2 units of Swooping Hawks for utility. A Warp Spider unit, and then, man after my own heart, double Wraith Lord. I wonder if we will see Wraith Lords more often in the near future, because I do feel like this is a slept-on data sheet. Especially now that Fate Dice are so valuable, being able to generate them over the course of the game pretty consistently is like huge. And the Wraith Lord, the base Wraith Lord profile is kind of sweet. He's got a good weapon. He's got a good defensive profile. He has... Oh, he took Shuriken Cannons? All right. What? Hold up. Is that a typo? You can take Bright Lances on them. I imagine we weren't actually taking Shuriken Cannons on our Wraith Lords, chat. There's no way, right? They're like 3 shots sustain 1? At 24 inches? Maybe if we felt like we needed an infantry sweeper. I bet those are supposed to be Bright Lances. Because I don't know if a human being in their right mind would be taking Shuriken Cannons over a Bright Lance. I bet those are supposed to be Bright Lances. Notorious Nurgle, thanks for hanging out, man. Appreciate you, buddy. If sisters get a change to their Miracle Dice and points, the army is dead. I think that it's an either-or kind of question, chat. I think that sisters... I would be expecting, come December or January, that sisters do get a change to their Miracle Dice and their points decrease. Because right now, their Miracle Dice mechanic is unspeakably overpowered, so their points had to increase. I think that Miracle Dice will be nerfed to be in line with Eldar's Fate Dice generation, but the army will be cheaper. If I had to guess, that's what would happen. And probably the Triumph gets nerfed because it's stupid. And maybe Morbid Ball. Those units don't necessarily need Miracle Dice, but... Imagine if Eldrad generated you 5 automatic 6s into your Fate Dice pool rather than 3 random dice. Could you imagine that, chat? That'd be a very different unit. Yeah, but I think the only reason that Sisters got hit so hard in points, and for all the Sisters players out there who are upset about the points changes, like, I understand. It sucks to have your army just get, like, nuked from orbit. But I think the only reason that they did that was because they don't have the capacity to change the faction rules for another 3 months. I think that there are imperatives in place from corporates where there is a limit to the amount of rules updates they can do, so that people don't get disenfranchised from the game or whatever, and disillusioned and leave the game. So they had to try to address the faction balance using only points, and that's what they were doing in this update, which feels bad. But that means that, I don't know, you just gotta hold off for a bit. You had a couple months of being like ridiculously overpowered, so now it's time to take a break and then come back next update. Which feels bad, but it is what it is. That's the Codex churn, chats. That's what we sign up for when we play 40k. Which sucks, but you know, the system's bad. But yeah, the Shuriken Cannon, Wraith Lord, I don't know. We don't have like a Nor cover outlet in this army at all, I don't think. There's no Vipers or anything, so this AP1's not going anywhere. It is 6 shots sustained hits, but your Miracle Dice don't go, or your Fate Dice don't go that far. Like, we could be using them to try to kill utility units, but I think the army does actually lack in hitting power. It's got the Falcons and the Fire Prisms, but that's kind of it when it comes to like killing big stuff. Man, Eldar just seem like they have so many things. This army just goes for days. There are two potentially full rerolling Void Reaver squads, right? Because they can jump out of the Fire Prism and get fire support plus their own hit reroll on objectives. There's also a Warp Spider squad and a Shining Spear squad and 2 infiltrating like infantry clearing striking Scorpion units. Plus a bunch of utility, plus 2 Wraith Lords, plus this like backline shooting from Fire Prisms. Eldar is just like, they have a million things. Man, Eldar are so cool. I bet Eldar do well this season. I bet they're gonna be good. Been seeing a rumor going around that World Eaters would be the last Codex. Any sources? I believe I have seen that rumor as well. I don't know where it originates from, but I would not be surprised. They were the last Codex last edition too, so I bet it's like poetry at rhymes or whatever, you know. All right, chat. Let me see if I can take a peek here. We can look for some other lists to talk about, but those are all the ones that I had noted down. I don't know if any other events used the new points update. And if so, what results they had. So if anyone has any requests, now would be the time, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure where we can find them. We'd have to take some looking. A bunch of Adeptus Mechanicus would have fit into this event. I wonder if it used the new stuff. It did have a Liberator Assault group, so I assume that it did. More Eldar, Grey Knights, Adeptus Mechanicus. Oh shit! Oh, this is doubles. Yeah, there were a couple of doubles events this week. The one thing that it is a little unfortunate, and I wonder if we could get an update on BCP, but it doesn't let you sort by player count, which would be very useful in talking about these RTTs. I believe that most of these did not use the updated points. Yeah, this is old points, Bjorn. It's always surprising to me when an RTT does not use most updated points. Because it does feel like, I don't know, we talked about it already, but it feels like it's the time. If there was a time to rapidly update, it would be the more agile formats like RTTs. We talked about demons earlier, chat. Yeah, we talked about a 201 demon list, which was pretty interesting. Triple Lord of Change. What about the 5-0 Eldar? We can talk about the 5-0 Eldar, or the 500 point Eldar. I have to remember which event it won because I did not note it down. I guess actually it'll be on discount. So I will be able to uncover it. Yeah, we can talk about it. It is old points, but that's like mostly a metagame thing because Eldar only got buffed, right? So you can still play this list. It will just be actually better than it looks like it would. But it would be into a metagame that's no longer relevant. So grain of salt, I guess. But let me just load up the event page. Grand Scary RTT was a timing issue. Let's reduce Sunday night. Like the Sunday preceding the event That's so early. That's like, I don't know. Everybody's free to run their events how they do, but requiring list submission requiring list pre-submission for an RTT feels a little overzealous. I don't know. I don't mean to criticize, but like RTTs are there for people to like try lists out and have a good time, and like forcing people to lock in their lists a full week ahead of time feels like kind of weird. I don't know, but that's just my personal opinion. As someone who decides to go to RTTs the day before, I always like, I would miss the deadline every time. And I sometimes write my list in the car on the way to the RTT. That's for sure happened. All right. So the event was, I found the list. The event was Rapid Fire 2024. And I wanted to pull up the event page because look at this score, chat. This man went 5-0 with 500 points scored. Also, the second place player went 4-1 with 490 points. I don't know. That is a shocking number of 100 point results. 100 point results are pretty rare in 40k because oftentimes you don't quite get the right secondaries at the time to completely max your score out. And everything being like an even number is like kind of weird. I don't know, chat. I'm not like accusing anyone of anything, but it is weird to have two players with a combined 9-1 record and 900 points scored amongst those games, which is that's extremely strange. We're rocking. It is Ynnari. It's a Ynnari version of Aeldar, so rocking the Vice-Arc, Yvrain, a Ranger unit, 1 unit of Striking Scorpions, 3 D-Cannon support weapon platforms, a big troop, so Yvrain and the Vice-Arc can jump into the huge troop squad. It's a big, I think it's an 11-man here because it's the lead player plus 10 regular players, which is a weird thing the troops allow you to do, but there it is. That's where they're at. That's so you get the maximum access to Yvrain's 5 Peel No Pain and 4+ Invulnerable Save. And then hopefully she and the Vice-Arc can, with their powers combined, just do insane, incredible damage. We have 2 Warp Spider units, a Kabalite Warrior unit, because we can ally in Ynnari, or Drukhari stuff out of Ynnari. Lilith Hesperax. This, I guess, I did say that this list would only get better, but in fact, that was a lie. I have lied directly to your face, chat, because this list actually did go up a bunch of points. At least a couple. The Lilith Hesperax went up, and the Mandrakes here went up. So we did drop at least 20 points in this list. So it is actually a little bit over than it would be in the new points value. I forgot that there was so much Drukhari in it. But we have good utility out of the Mandrakes with their uppy downy. Lilith Hesperax and the Witch Squad is incredible. Scourges for the backline shooting, also good. We didn't see the Ynnari like Scourge loadout, where it's 1 Dark Lance and a bunch of Haywire Blasters. We just have a full Haywire unit and a full Dark Lance unit. Or excuse me, 2 full Dark Lance units. But still pretty solid with the floating reroll off of Battle Host. A Venom to split the Witch unit up, or maybe the Kabalite Warrior unit, but I kind of imagine it's the Witch. So we have a Raider? We don't have a Raider, do we? No. I imagine it's splitting the Witches up. And one thing that sometimes you can do is put one of the combat characters into the Kabalite Warriors, but that's very rare. Like, Yvrain can jump into them, but I doubt that we did that because she's so good in the Harlequin troop. The Kabalite Warrior unit's actually really interesting. Maybe it's just for locking the backline objectives so we can leave it. And then a bunch of Witches for Lilith to jump into. So that list went 500 points. The big 500. They must have talked out 3 turns every round and added 100 points to that actually playing. Yeah. I have seen that quite a bit. I think it tends to happen UKTC more than other circuits. I don't know why, but that does feel like what was going on. And I did like peek through the pairings. There were like some pretty tight ones, but there were a couple that was like 100 to like 20, which was pretty shocking. Which I imagine was like an early game concession that they just 100 pointed. But it is what it is. Either way, you win the game, so it doesn't really matter that much. It's just interesting to see the full 100 get placed down. I care more about the win than I do the exact score, to be honest. Knights had some RTT wins, chat, we can take a peek at. They went undefeated at this one. They did tie with Sisters, but, I mean, first of all, that goes to show you how different of a format we're playing in now. Imperial Knights draw Sisters of Battle? Okay. John Johnston, rockin' Canis Rex, a Cerastus Atropos with Mysterious Guardian, Devil Helvrin, Quad Warglaive. He had his own Battle Sister squad. A little funny, because I think this is the... I wonder if we had BSS in this one. Is the new Battle Sister squad, the Ages of the Imperial Battle Sister squad, it is actually more expensive than the standard Battle Sister squad, but we still took it, which is very funny. A Calidus Assassin, yeah, and then all the Warglaives. So we did see some night results. Oh, excuse me, chat. Yeah. But yeah, it's mostly stuff that we've seen before. The Canis Rex plus the Atropos, the Guardian Atropos. I think that's where Mysterious Guardian has sort of rested. We've seen it on Errands, and Crusaders, excuse me, and we've seen it on Castellans. But I think that and we've even seen it a little bit on Valiants. But the Atropos was already in the list, and I think it's just a more natural place for that to go, so that it can redeploy, get its good guns on somebody, and then be in a good spot to sort of like stomp down one flank. And then we also have a bunch of Warglaives backing it up with some utility. Yeah. Yeah, chat. Yeah, they might have been there just for objective locking, so that the rest of the army could leave. I imagine in most situations you end up having to camp them on the objective anyway, because your opponent has deep strikes that could just steal it. But like having a whole unit of 10 for 115 that also gets some heavy weapons is not really that. It's not bad in Knights for sure. And the situations where your opponent doesn't have redeploys, then or repositions that can jump into the back, then they end up being really good, right? Oh, chat. But that's what I got. Those are all the events that I have noted down that used the new points and had some results. I think there's some spice in there. I think there might have been more Kroot hunting packs. I do think there's one event that had multiple undefeated Tau. Derek Apshe immediately, from 40k Dirtbags, immediately jumped on the Kroot hunting bag train. There it is, chat. Look at all those Kroots. That's what I'm here to see. Yeah, I'm curious about this detachment, because I think this detachment might be sick. Just like mass horde mode. 40k could be good. It could be something that we're not prepared for, but I don't know. It's probably counterable. It's a little. It feels like it might be a little tough because Tau are so, their armor is so good. Like, not necessarily like the armor value, but their armored vehicles are so strong that you also have to answer their backline vehicle stuff in addition to the mass Tau, like or the mass Kroot frontline. But I think that's probably a surmountable goal. But yeah, chat, I think I am going to wrap things up here. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching. I will be live tomorrow afternoon. We got Tactical Tuesday tomorrow, and then I'm going to be live this weekend. I'm at the Battle Against Breast Cancer GT. So thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me. I hope everybody enjoyed this discussion of the results. Huge thanks for all the super chats we got. Your support is greatly appreciated. Helps me keep the lights on over here. And we got some cool stuff coming. I got some videos recorded sitting in the chamber, ready to go. There's a new Tactical Tyrannosaurus video that should be coming in the next week or two. I'll make a post about it on the community page. I have a new Patreon specifically for Tactical Tyrannosaurus stuff. So whichever side of my content that you want to support, I'm going to have like, you'll be able to do that without, sort of getting overlap. I was posting Tactical Tyrannosaurus stuff on the TacticalTortoise Patreon, and I felt pretty weird because people were there to support this channel and not that channel. So I'm going to split those off into two things. I'm going to have an interview with the Final Liberation game designer that'll be up there this week as well. So once I post that up, you'll be able to see that, and that'll be available for people who support that Patreon. My lights are off. Look at all this green, dude. Have you seen this? Look at all this green. But yeah, otherwise, catch me later on this week when I'm live. It's going to be a good time. I'm super excited. And I will see you all then. So cheers, everyone. Keep it classy, folks. And I'll see you in the next one. I'll see you tomorrow for Tactical Tuesday. Have a good one.